Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the featured news for 6th September 2021. The featured news for today is on climate law in India. Now, in the times of impending crisis, when climate change becomes inevitable, the times when IPCC has declared code red for humanity, all the countries are in a foray, they're in a race to declare their climate laws. Europe has said that it will become net zero in carbon emission by 2050. China has declared the same, that it will become net zero in emission by 2060. Now it is time for India also to declare its climate laws. In this context, this article becomes very relevant, especially for civil servants. Why? Because majorly they have to deal with climate crisis. And therefore, we will understand in this article what are the ways in which a climate law can be designed. Does it need to be developmental? Does it need to have mitigation strategies? Does it need to have adaptation strategies? A mix of it, because India is a country of diversity and therefore we might need all these kind of reforms. So we will understand in detail what are the various ways it can be designed, what are the advantages of climate law in India, and what are the issues that we need to overcome. Before getting into climate laws, we need to have an important context as to why climate becomes very important. We have seen in the last 1 to 1.5 years how climate change has impacted our country. We are not only talking about the floods because of changing of the river course. We are also speaking of urban flood activities, urban flood and flash floods. Not just these, we are also speaking of the cloud burst. How does this happen? Climate change has an important role to play here. Not just that, look at the various cyclones that are happening in the country. Cyclone Amphan. And not only just about rain, it is also about landslides. It is also about droughts. It is also about forest fires. And I have left earthquake out of it. It is said that the Himalayan region will see a very, very devastating earthquake in the coming 100 years. So there needs to be a climate law for the country. Presently, we do have laws. We do have laws around climate change mitigation. For example, disaster management. For example, air quality, water quality. For example, conservation of forest. Right? So we do have as, but what about the crisis of climate? Do we have laws which are making the institutions responsible for climate? Presently, no. Presently, India is third in number in respect of those countries which have highest emission of greenhouse gases. Not only that, India might lose $6 trillion by the year 2050 only for this specific year, and India might lose as much as $36 trillion by 2050 just because of climate change. Not just that, India bears 4 times the burden of the amount of climate change India actually causes. It bears the burden 4 times more than the emissions that we make. And this makes India one of the countries most vulnerable for climate. We do have laws for climate change mitigation and strategies around it. For example, disaster management, compensatory afforestation, energy conservation, air and water management, right? But we do not have a law which directly addresses the climate, which directly talks about how to ensure that people do not emit more than required, to hold people accountable for their emissions, to be able to have research and development strategies, right? And this is why we need a climate law in the country. Now, there are 3 ways in which a law can be designed around climate change. One is to ensure that we mitigate the climate change at all. How? By reducing the greenhouse emission. The second one could be the one in which we adapt to the climate changes. So how do we adapt? For example, if there is a river course changing because of climate, then we will displace the people, right? And the third one is about having development. So we will have developmental activities, for example, hydrogen, green hydrogen, right? So these are the 3 ways in which it can happen. Now, the first strategy is about mitigation. This is the one where Indians counter the whole global phenomena. They say that India is still a developing country and we need coal resources. We need those kind of gases to be emitted. Otherwise, our jobs will get lost. Presently, India is emitting almost 1/3 of the global average of the emissions, and countries like USA are emitting 2.5 times of the global average per capita, right, of emissions. So India says that mitigation is something that is not completely good for us. In this regard, India speaks of climate justice, India speaks of equity, India speaks of cumulative emissions for the whole world, not just for mitigation for our country, right? This is one. So therefore, 60% of thermal power which is used for generation of power, right, in India, it is something that is inevitable. We will have to use coal for now. So this is one. The second one is adaptation. How much can we adapt? How much can we displace people from one place to another? We have already displaced 1,000 times more people as compared to the displacement in conflicts in the country itself. So around 39 lakh people displaced because of climate disasters as compared to 3,900 people displaced because of conflicts. So how much of adaptation will we go through? This is another question. And development, do we have the amount of finances to go through this green hydrogen? Immediately? No. And therefore, India needs a mix of all three strategies, a mix of mitigation, a mix of adaptation, and a mix of development. These are the three important components of the climate law that should be designed in our country. So largely, when we talk of mitigation, management, and adaptation strategies, where should we apply this? Where should the decarbonized economy come from? It should come from handling the dirty supply chains of present times. It should come from the energy systems in India. If energy systems are reformed, we will have better transformations of the transport system. We will have better transformation in industry and infrastructure. Not only that, there will be a change. There will be a requirement of change in agricultural methodology as well, the diet and food habits, something that should reduce the greenhouse gas emission, forestry. Now, this is a recursive process. Either it is regenerative or it is degenerative. If we do it in the right way, it will help decarbonize the economy. Otherwise, it might result in spirals of crop failure, pandemic, migration patterns, civil unrest, environmental disasters. So either the positive way or the negative way, these are the two ways for the country to go ahead. How will it help us? It will help us in multiple ways. Economies will be saved, livelihoods, jobs, food security, health, better disaster management. So climate migration will decrease and there'll be better quality of life, right? India keeps speaking of equity. India keeps speaking of historical responsibility, climate finance, technology transfer. Now these are important aids. These are important aids India needs, international aids and domestic aids, corporate aids, government aid, NGO aids. India needs to help decarbonize its economy. Coming back to the article in Gazette magazine, we are talking about the need for climate laws in India. Now, if you look at it from the other perspective, from the development angle, if we have a good law for climate change in India, what will it result into? It will result into fulfilling climate commitments for the world. Yes, it will. It will result into lessening the emissions. Yes, it will. It will ensure accountability mechanism for every institution, private body, government body, corporates. Yes, it will. What about the current plans? Current plans are limited because they are not holding a check on the bodies which are ensuring greenhouse gas emission. So the future plan is required. It is a must so that the limitations of the current plan be overcome, right? So this is the need of the economy, because if we do not have this kind of law, what will it result into? It will result into more disasters, more health disasters, more migration, more issues in education, livelihood, jobs, and this is how our economy will face this $6 trillion loss in the year 2050, and as much as I mentioned, $36 trillion by this same time. Now, presently, this is a delicate matter for the country to have such a climate law, because the climate law will involve accountability of government, private bodies, institutions, NGOs, and individuals as well. This will entail fines, this will entail punishment, penalty, and that is why it might become a delicate matter for everybody. This is one. There is also dichotomy for the country, dichotomy for global responsibility and national prosperity. Presently, prosperity will be through immediate generation of power, immediate employment measures, which are being powered through coal, right? And this transition might take a while so that we start generating cleaner energy. And global responsibility is the one which is about climate mitigation. So we have to balance both national prosperity and global responsibility, and this is a question for now. This is why it is a difficult transformation at present. Now for this, what is required is to have all the stakeholders in place. The first stakeholders are the one which will get impacted. Now, industries, agriculture, service sector, tourism, these are the major sectors which might get involved because of change in climate. So they have to be prepared for an impending disaster. This is one. Then we have to have bottoms-up approach. Now, government cannot keep telling what to do. Government also needs to take inputs from all the sectors. How do they need support? How can they actually change, transforming their energy systems? This is one. That is why we need more research. So we need research investment, we need inputs, we need funds. So these are the important requirements. And we have to link the climate change laws with disaster management and mitigation as well. climate change law in India must adopt an alternative approach, not the one which dictates what government has to do, but the one that is enabling, right? In this context, all I want you to do is to take 30 seconds to understand the various dimensions of climate laws, why climate law needs a particular design having developmental mechanism, having adaptation strategies and mitigation strategies as well. We need to understand the context in which these laws have to be framed in India. And after that, you can attempt this question. The question says, discuss the need for enacting a climate law in India. How should the climate law in India be shaped for effective transformation? If you like this video, shower some love on us through likes, comments, and shares. If you subscribe to the channel, you will receive timely updates. Thanks for watching.